Alrighty, let's see how we're doing tonight. Welcome to the stream. God, I feel like I'm a late night radio broadcaster right now. This lo-fi playlist is rock and rolling. So good news is tonight we start on time. On time is good. And we got a little bit of fun things happening, a little bit of a countdown timer now, so we can start earlier and get people into the stream, which is great. A little bit of Spotify music happening in the background. Hopefully that's not too loud. If you're here, hello and welcome. Give me some feedback on that Spotify music. Let me know if it's too crazy, too loud. Doesn't have to be. If it's too quiet, you can't hear it at all, and it's annoying, let me know. Tonight we've got a new session. I've just already imported everything and set it up as a base with basic channel strips going on and everything, but it should be fun for us to dig into. We're gonna try to get to some basic drum mixing and some group mixing. I cover drums a lot, so we'll see how concise I can boil this down to tonight. And we'll try to bring in some third-party. I got a friend of mine was asking about third-party plugins today on Instagram and what's a good investment. So hopefully that'll be helpful to some people, especially like teams or churches that have budgets that need to know where to put their money. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Hey Mark, welcome. It's good to have you here tonight. So we'll give it a few minutes. Give it a few minutes for people to pop in. But while we're waiting for some people, let me know how are things going. How's your? Hopefully your families and everybody's are staying safe. Let me know what your audio world looks like. If anybody's able to pick up any side gigs during this crazy time, or if they've got any random gigs that have popped up. Somebody's pushing the boundaries or social distancing gigs. Let me know how those are going. If you're able to practice at home with a DAW and some tracks, let me know how you're doing on that. Love to hear your progress. Also, as always, feel free to share this with anybody you know who might want to join in and benefit from this. Let me know. Share the Facebook pages, the YouTube link, and Twitch or whatever. So live again every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 5:30 Pacific time. Free audio coaching, driven heavily by the feedback of you guys. We're currently running that request campaign to as many places as we can to get some multi-tracks in and get people to join in. This weekend I'll be testing the integration with a chat app or something, so I can bring in some engineers with me to go through mixes together. That should be a good time. So yeah, let's see. Anybody, if you're here, say hi in the chat, comment on the Facebook, or chat in the Twitch or YouTube. Let me know you're here. Share this, blast it out to everybody. Give it a couple more minutes. So we're doing pretty good, I think. We are at 5:33. Give it a couple more minutes for people to pop in. And I'll take the opportunity to pop over to the social medias and make sure that the auto alerts have gone out. They did not go out on time on Wednesday, so that's a thing. Just gonna make sure. Let's go check the Twitters. Yeah, see, so the Twitter. That is awesome. Looks like my Twitter announcement went a day late for Wednesday. That's fan-flippin-tastic. Looks like, all right, so I did the manual one about 4 minutes ago, which is great. People asking on Instagram when I go live. Let's respond now. We're going live now, everybody, going live now. Let's go check the Facebook type world. Yep. How's everybody doing? Anybody new people in chats? Yep. Okay, so it looks like let's see, Facebook. Come on, Facebook. Why do I have to have like a billion apps for everything? Can I just go to one app and see everything? Hey, look at that. A Facebook announcement popped on. That's perfect. So the Facebook went off on time, but it doesn't look like the Twitter one did. Oh well, we'll have to do some more research on that. Let's see. Yep, I want to ban that guy. That guy's just throwing hate. Delete. People can be just nasty. It's like they don't have any joy in their lives. No joy at all. All right, guys. Hitting about 5:35. Let's swap on over to the mix rig. And I probably have something looping over there that I want to let's see here. There we go. And we've killed our Spotify at the same time, which is fine. Let's stop the mix rig first, because that will be some nastiness you guys do not want to hear. So give me 2 seconds, 2 shakes of a lamb's tail, as it were. There we go. Stop the playing. I think I accidentally turned the volume up on my iPad. Sorry, guys. iPad volume is now down. Okay, so we'll unmute the mix rig. Let's just double check real quick that yep, it is working. That's the on the night mix. We don't really want to hear that. All right, let's jump in real quick. So here we are, familiar layout. Oops. So we've got our channel strip plugin like we would on a console, just a channel strip, set of EQ, compressor, some trim for emulating gain. And we've got some basic auxes set up for our basic effects that we might see on a console. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to try to set up for some group mixing. And at the same time, we're going to try going through some drums, right? All right, so when we talk about mixing groups, or mixing with groups, we do need to ask ourselves if we're going to get any benefit, and I'll get into, there definitely is some benefits, but personally for me, I don't mix with groups. I tried and did a lot of experimentation when I spent some time in Sydney. I had another great engineer friend that would bounce back and forth on the same scene with me every week, and I would try things with groups and tell him what I did, and he would try things the next week and then tell me what he did, and we just, you know, bounce back and forth and share ideas and learn that way, and we had some good mixes and some good times on that. But as time progressed and as I got more into different scenarios for mixing, and you know, sometimes I wouldn't have a lot of time to prep my console scenes that are, you know, going on tours or going out on gigs locally, it just became a lot of hassle to try to throw that in and prep that. So for me personally, with the variation of scenarios that I was running into, I stopped mixing with groups, and I found that I didn't really didn't need the groups to achieve a similar result to what I might get with groups. However, if I was to be sitting on the same console week in and week out, I might reevaluate, and I might consider what creative benefits I can get with groups. Now, for me, there's two big benefits that I can see with the groups. One, and this is probably super important for the sort of time that we're in now, you can achieve less dynamic range and bring your mixes up a little bit to meet your broadcast standards and stuff pretty easily. Now, I say now because when you're in a live environment, especially with a lot of churches whose sound systems are not you know, dialed in appropriately, or, you know, commissioned well, or venues where if you happen to be doing a live stream or whatever, and you don't know what their PA is, you know, their DSP on their PA is configured for, you may want to run into having plenty of volume for your live streams and need to pull it back. Then your only benefit for groups is going to be more dynamic control to watch your spikes, but you'll probably have plenty of volume. Groups can be an additional gain stage. So for me, when I do my bus masters, so you can see over here on the far right of this Pro Tools session, I have a master bus, and that's just, you know, a place for me to put my meters and my you know, I have this little plugin that's sending sound out to Flux, which you see on the bottom right of your screen, which is a nice little little meter that gives you, here, let me show you if I can. I'll use this. This is This is just a board record of the session. So you can see the meters that pop up and stuff there. Yeah, so that's just a way for me to get some metering out to you. But my bus masters are always at 0. I don't want to be adding some gain there and then running the risk that I'm pushing quite a bit of voltage into that bus, and then that bus is boosting it a little bit more, and I'm clipping on the output, or I'm clipping into the converter. I don't want to square wave. There's you may have heard it before. Square waving is dangerous to speakers, and it can very well be. Speakers are designed to operate on alternating current, so above, down, your nominal position, your resting position, so positive, negative, negative. It does that for audio, and that's how a speaker is designed. Well, when you square wave hard enough with the alternating current circuit, it turns it into a DC. So you're squaring off the tops and the bottoms of those crests, and you'll get to a point where it's going hard and then dropping down again and going hard, square waving, and that becomes a DC current, which is like a square wave, and that will effectively translate, especially if you're running full tilt on your amplifiers, to full excursion on your speaker and full retraction on your speaker, and you could do some pretty bad damage. So that's probably the biggest reason we avoid clipping. Now, you can tickle red on a lot of systems. A lot of systems have overload protection on them and things like that these days. So not that big a deal these days, but still as a practice, I keep my masters at unity, and I try not to add any gain there. But mixing in buses or groups, you have that available to you if you need it. A lot of times what I see is I see churches specifically because of the way that they're organized and their leadership sits on the front row and there's front fill speakers that they have in front of them. When I go to commission a PA, I actually commission the speakers to fit in, those front fill speakers to fit in sonically with the actual PA, so they're filling in the dead zone that the main PA doesn't hit. And any good system designer will tell you they do the same thing. However, usually in churches, especially the more contemporary churches, when you have those pastors on the front row that are really anal about details for their services, they'll see a speaker sort of relatively close to them and they'll wonder why they can't feel it or hear it like the big PA. So we'll wind up turning those up for those people. But sometimes churches will do that without a commissioner, without an audio consultant there to help them do that. They'll have it on a bus and they'll push it and then they'll blow their front fills. It happens all the time. It's happened locally to a church here in San Diego. They've blown at least 2 front fills doing this. And it's just, not good practice to be pushing your buses, but obviously everything within reason, within margin. Give me 2 seconds to get some water, guys. And hopefully this is helpful. If I say something too quickly or there's something you don't understand or you have a question, please fire the questions into the chat, into the comments. And I will read those questions so that all the platforms can see them and respond. So yeah, groups, it gives us some dynamic control, some extra level, up and down. So you have some down there. Things are getting a little too out of hand. So, when you start your rehearsal, everybody plays a certain level, and then the doors open, then the venue fills up, and the band gets on stage, and everything's louder. So maybe a convenient place to pull everything down quickly in a matter of 4 faders or so. So that's one. Dynamics control, you can throw compressors on them and keep things under control a little bit more. You can throw some EQ on there and keep maybe fit the tones together a little bit. But again, all of these things can be managed on your faders if you have the due diligence to look ahead and think about what you're doing and fit things together. But so that's that benefit. The other benefit is more creative. So So the more creative benefit would be like if I wanted to do parallel drum processing, or maybe a squash bus, which is similar to parallel drum processing, or if I wanted to do, here's another creative example that a lot of people don't really use, but if I wanted to do whisper or air tracks for my vocals, which is a technique where you take just your high end and compress it and mix it back in a little bit for your vocals, so you get the nice airy top end. Or what's another great way? Another great creative use would be you could split out early reflections and longer reflections and put delays on different parts of your effects or whatever to get creative manipulation of how your effects and your reverbs are operating. So there's plenty of things that you could do creatively, or you might get a balance of some things. There's a church that I've been helping in LA a lot that has a very, very, very harsh bright room, and we use buses there to help us control the tonality in the mixes when all the microphones on stage are picking up those upper mid-band reflections back into the microphones. So that helps us out a lot, helps us tone. So what you'll notice with buses is that you may, so on a channel strip, like here on this vocal channel, you might find a frequency and you might pull it down 3 dB, 6 dB, before you get an effect. But if I was to go take a bus and make a movement on an EQ, you'll hear really quickly that like a half a dB to a dB, no more than a dB and a half, makes very large audible changes. And that comes down to doing that, and having a lot more RMS that you're affecting. Mastering engineers notoriously will only do a couple dB of EQ in any band because they don't need any more. You're not affecting what is more or less a peak-driven signal that has lower average RMS. You're affecting a much higher average RMS with lower peaks, and the overall tonality is coming from that RMS. So it's easier to pull that out a little bit. So let's dial in here. So for tonight, if I can get some feedback from the chat, if you guys want to see basic drum bus, I can do that. If you want to see some parallel drum bus that's more like a squash bus and parallel drum mixing, I can do that. So let me know. What I will do right off the bat is I'll set up for both, and then we'll start on the drums, and we'll get to squash later if I get some votes for that. So let's take here, and we'll take here, and we'll go. I'll send these out, create some new tracks, and we'll do this one as, we'll keep this one as stereo. We'll keep our bus as stereo for right now. We'll call this one Squash. We'll call it Squash if I can't fat finger it over here. Okay, so that should give us a return for that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just move these down as I go. And I'll take the drums. Now on a console, not a DAW, on a console you would have a certain amount of aux buses, and this aux bus would be on every single channel. You just wouldn't use them. So like here on the electric guitar, I wouldn't be sending the electric guitar to the squash. I would just be either not activating it or keeping the volume all the way down. So, but I will take the drums and I will go, here's all of the drums. And because I need some color to separate things, I will do that. And I'll go ahead, let's go ahead, take you guys and send you out. Now, here, better stop. Right now we're using this digital output for all of our tracks, right? Now, if I'm going to go ahead and bus, right, to things, I'm going to be returning that out to that same digital output, right? So those buses I'm going to activate to my left, right. So this would be my left, right. Ignore this little naming thing. It's just running out of a stereo pair on my interface, but it's the digital output, right? This is my main left, right. So these channels typically on a console would be going there. I don't want them to go there and to go out to whatever group I put in. That's called double busing. I'm going to start compounding on volume. If it's an analog console, I don't have too many problems. It just, things get louder, and I'm potentially pushing too hard on outputs or into my amplifier, and I have no common meter point right there. So if I have this bus here, and I'm sending out to the squash, and I'm sending out here, and I'm sending out to a drum bus, well, now I have 3 master buses and they're not giving me any summed meter, and I'm probably actually clipping into my amp or my DSP and have no idea about it until it sounds real bad. That's a bad day, right? So what you would want to do is you would want to go ahead and, so for the ones that we're going to bus, come on, get off, we're going to take these, and let's see if Pro Tools will actually allow us to no output. Nope, it's not going to be fun. So you would turn off your left, right, so that you don't have, most consoles will have an assigned to left, right. But most, let's see, some of the lower end consoles may not have it. Some of the some of the analog consoles probably won't have it. It's just running through a bunch of it in my head, but most of them will have an assign to left, right. So because Pro Tools will not let me do that, and you know, I mean, I have this here, but I have no pan anymore. I can't really do this like I would on a console, even though I could pan still here. I'm going to want to use this follow mix pan, and I'm going to want to use my fader and my pan knob as I would on a console. So what I'm going to do for this example is I am going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new track right from the output, right? Another stereo aux return for another group, and I'm going to call this my drums group. Okay. So now I have a squash group and I have a drums group. The kick, so both channels of my kick, both channels of my snare, and my toms are going to the squash. I am not going to be sending my cymbals to my squash. And then all of my drums are going to my drums group. So that is my first two groups. Now I'm going to go ahead and, so these are all ambience lines. So we'll make those, just for the sake of it, a dark brown or a dark mustard. These are ambience. I am not going to be bussing those. I am fine with them being set to the regular left, right, but for our case, what we would do mixing on a live system, we do not send those back to the left, right. We will mute them and send them to our live mix aux. But for the case of this video, we need to hear them, so I am going to do that. Bass. Now, here's where things are going to get a little bit more simple. If I have a very large console, if I have like a big Digico or Midas console and I want to get real crazy, I may have a bass group. I may have a guitar group, or I may have this. So I don't necessarily want to do that. In this instance, I want to emulate smaller consoles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an instrument group, okay? And then I'm going to do a vocal group. So I'm going to keep things real simple tonight. We'll go and take up to here. Yeah, that sounds good, right? I have everything in there. I have everything in there. So we will send these guys out to a new track, and we'll call this one, we'll stereo aux input, and we'll call this one instruments. Or let's make it shorter so we can read it easy. Instrument. Cool. And then, so now we have that one there. Yep. Cool. We'll keep moving these down. And then we're going to have some vocals, right? So I believe these are all the singing vocals. Yes. So we'll send these guys out to oh, actually, you know what? There is a way to do this. I just forgot. Apologize. I'm gonna make this look like a console for you guys. Right? Okay, so we'll just use the mute button. And then I can, let's see, does this work? Pre-fader. Not quite. Okay, so that wouldn't really quite work. Safe is an automation safe. Pre-fader, so if I am, oh yeah, this should, here, let's see, let's try this out, guys, real quick. Let's take the kick. It's muted. We'll turn it up. Okay, so I believe follow mix pan we are gonna want, yeah. So it's not going to let me, so I'm going to have to keep doing it this way. I apologize. That such is trying to show you guys things with Pro Tools when I am actually trying to emulate a console. Well, it is what it is. So what I was trying to do is I was trying to go ahead and put the group up here, wherever it may be, drums. Yep. So I was trying to put that up there and then allow it to get signal and just use the mute, but that will not work, unfortunately. Yeah, it's not going to work. All right, so I'll just do this. This will be my second group down here. Okay, so we're up to our vocals. So again, because I have no way of just picking off and turning off the digital out, I'm going to go ahead and, well, I do actually, no, I still want that. Okay. Yeah, yep. No, I still want that. I may do. Hold on. I'm thinking about this guy. I'm thinking about this, guys. I'm thinking about this. I may have a solution. So here's the other thing about being an audio engineer. It's thinking through everything. And if I make a dummy output and I don't use it, then I will be able to turn them off and that will work. Okay, I have my answer, guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put these guys out of that boot bus that I made. Here, this will be my instruments. And I will go ahead and make sure that these are all following Mixpan. And I'll show you what I do for this in a second. These guys will all go out the drum bus drum group. Sorry, I'll try to keep the terminology. Drums group, and they will all follow Mixpan. These guys will all follow Mixpan. And here's what I'm going to do. I am going to send these guys out of a new track, which I will call No Left Right, to make it a little bit easier for us. I will take that new bus that it created called No Left Right, and I will turn it off, and I will mute it. So we will not hear this. This is just going to be for keeping our unassigns. Yeah? So now we have a No Left Right, and these are going to our left right. Let's make things a little more easy for everybody. Let's go to that digital output. Where are you? We'll call you left right. Boom. That should change everything to left right. So now here we go. We'll assign all these instruments that we had up to our vocals to no left right, because we're unassigning it from our, let's unassign these from our left right. Cool. So they are unassigned from our left right. And we will go and take our vocals all the way up to here, and we will put them into our new track, new group we're going to call Vox. Latin, I believe, for vocals. Okay, so now we have our vocal bus. So we have our squash bus, drum bus, instrument bus, and vocal bus. We are going to then... Let's see, your vote. If there's anybody in chat that wants to see another bus, maybe a MC bus or an effects bus, I have room for about one more in Pro Tools, so we could do that if you want to. But, oh, I forgot. Catch me out. I got to unassign my vocals from my left right. So bus, unassign from the left right. We're pretending that is our no left right. Cool. So now what we should get is... nothing. I have nothing soloed. If I turn up this guy, nothing. Okay, so we're not sending out anywhere. That's what we want to see. We don't want those on right now. We're not paying attention to this guy. We're going to go hide and make him inactive because that was just a test. These are out left, right. Oh, and all of you guys need to actually go out of my left, right. Where, oh, I forgot that's actually an output. Left, right. There we go. Boom. So now they're going out to left, right. Because when we solo stuff out, we want to hear. We're going to go with solo safeties. And they're going to be like masters, so we'll make them red. A little bit warm red. So they're bus masters, so we need to see those as buses. And we are going to want to see a channel strip on them. So we'll put a channel strip on them. Cool. I wanted you guys to see this process, so I didn't do it earlier. So that took a few minutes, but it was probably well worth it. Also, it looks like I need to throw a channel strip on these aux returns because these are effects. All right. Now, what we'll see here is, we'll turn this group on real quick. And we're going to want to make sure that when we do groups on a console, when you use a group bus, like on a Midas console, when you select group, it's on or off. There's no adjustment to the level going to the group. It's on or off. You use your fader to adjust the level. So what we'll do is we're just going to slam these at Unity. And if you were emulating groups, if you don't have a group aux bus, then you would just go ahead and do this. You would use a regular aux bus, set it to Unity, and forget about it. Unless you had a real reason to change something, which is totally up to you guys and the situation. So we'll go ahead and we'll turn all of these up to Unity, which it looks like I may have to do the hard way. The hard way. Okay, let's go here. Select all you guys. We'll Shift Option, click, and that should have. Yep, okay, that worked. So we'll take all you guys here and we'll do a Shift Option on you. Even though I turned the all group on, it is not loving me. It's probably because I have to go set the group. Yeah, that worked. And we'll take these guys here and we will put them into the drums, and we'll take these guys here and we'll put those into the squash. So now I should have, yep, all the stuff comes through, which is good. Sorry if I blew anybody's ears out, but yeah, there we go. We have stuff. We have things. And the other thing that I want to do is follow Mixpan. Sorry, real quick, that'll just take a second. We'll do a Shift Option, follow Mixpan. We'll select all you guys. And we'll do a follow. Yep, well, I'll make sure that that happens. And we'll take these guys. And we will do a follow Mixpan and make sure that those are okay. Cool. So now what follow Mixpan does is watch this pan knob here in the center, and when I take this hats pan and I move it, it follows in the bus, which is what we want. All right, so that's how I would most basic set it up for aux mixing or bus mixing, as you were as it were. And no groups are on. Okay, cool. So that's that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start building my mix as I normally would. These are all open. I shouldn't have any issues here. I'll just double check that these came in without the stuff on. Yes, that's all good. And I will start mixing, right? And I'll try to breeze through these drums as quickly as I can. And I'll probably have a series coming up pretty soon that goes into this in more detail. So what I'm going to do, same process for everything that I mix. If I have a sound check or whatever, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check my level, make sure I'm getting to the level that I want to get to. Also, I will make sure that I am. Yes. How different is... No, I don't want that. I do want K14. Let's do K14. So I'll be checking my level, making sure it hits where I want it to hit, and turning it up or turning it down as I need. And then I will also be checking on multi-mic sources like drums. I will be checking my polarity against a common source. So my overheads will be my first source because I will be trying to dial in a good drum sound just with my overheads. So let's go find something energetic to listen to. Oh, wrong button combination. That's because I use a PC keyboard. There we go. Okay, let's go find something crazy and energetic. Yeah. This be beginning of the night again. Let us see what this sounds like here. Hopefully it's not completely empty. It looks like it may be, but let's see. We'll solo this real quick. Oh, actually, that's not bad. It's a nice slow groove. That might actually work. So we can see right now that we've got pretty hot signal. Yep. So what I'll do is I'll bring down this input trim till I get the signal peaking where I want to see it peak. We'll lose it in the mix a little bit, but more important that we hit level first. Now this is a groove, so we're going to want to give us some room, right, in case they get energetic. So we're going to come about 3 dB down. All right. And I'll go to 0. Because this is turned down for the mixing, we're going to go ahead and give us some volume. This is purely for listening for us right now on stream. If it's too quiet, let me know. Cool. So, don't need a ton of low end on the overheads, but we do need some. So again, we're still working on the overheads, guys. Take a little bit of that out. We're trying to get a good sounding drum sound, like overall drum kit. And soften it just a little bit of air. And then what I normally do is I will go ahead and I'll compress a little, turn the compressor on right around the snare hits. This attack is a little crazy fast. Too much. Wow. And I'm probably going to start around 150 on the release, 150 milliseconds, because that's a generally average amount of envelope for a snare. It's a good place to start, but I'll listen to the groove of the song that I'm mixing and I'll make sure it fits. I'll check the compressor. Cool. Try to get there a little bit quicker for you guys because I don't want to spend too crazy much time on this. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking that big transient out of the overhead so that I can use the close mics and fit it in. There we go. Now we're getting a little bit more of the tail coming through, and this will also make our cymbals just a little bit longer. So pretty good with that. So let's go ahead and get our kick started because I'll go back to my kick. So this is just drum mixing, guys. Let's turn. Okay, so we can see right away that our gain is hot on these. So this orange bar that you see is the peak, and then the floating green bar is more like a slower release, like a VU, and then that lower green bar is more like an average. So again, I'm going to shoot for about -3 under 0 on the VU, which in full scale is about -14, and I'll be shooting for -17. So that's pretty good there. Check my polarity. I'll restart from a cleaner section. Definitely out. It's got more body out. Now, this is the kick in, so I don't normally use a lot of low end from it. Trying to take a little bit of the metal sound out of it. That metal rock sound. Make it sweeter. It's a very well-tuned kit. I don't want to take too much of this out. There's a nice punch there. Cool. Now I'll go ahead and we'll start working on the compressor real quick. Try to get it around close to 4 to 6. This is broadcast style mixing, so I can go a little bit crazier on the compressor than I might live. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's get this level right? Because if I go all the way up, that's actually not bad, because I want the overheads to sit a little bit. The cymbals to the kick is not bad. bouncing off the head a little bit. Okay, so let's quickly talk about this for the sake of live purposes. So for a gate, if I was going to gate this kick drum, first thing I might do is go to the side chain of the gate and go up to about 200, because even though the kick's got a lot of low end, it's got an attack happening, right? This particular one we want peak, right? So I'm going to listen to that real defined upper end to open this gate. So I don't really want that. Will this let us solo this? I probably won't. I'm gonna cheat and use the analyzer and see where the best attack is. Looks like it's around just about 3K. Actually, we might actually be able to do it this way. Cool. So what we want to do is we want to a hold on our gate can be right around the length of that full transient, so right around 50 milliseconds. The release, we're going to get off of it pretty quick. For the depth, I'll explain the depth in just a second. I want to dial in this a little bit more. So we're never going to get rid of all of the snare. See, the snare still opens it a little. Okay, but also when you do this live, it's never wise to go hard on the gate, especially if you're driving the in-ears. So I'll just pull this, use this to pull the bleed down just a tiny bit. Tighten it up too. So without it, with it, just pulls that overhead bleed down just a little. And then let's go to kick in, which is where I usually do where I get my low end from. I'm just going to do this to check what level we get when I do this. So this brings the overall level down just a little. Let's go ahead and so you'll notice I took that back out so I could see the level. It's because I don't want anything voltage-wise to wind up accidentally peaking or clipping before. Come on. It's finicky. It's very touchy. And then I'm going to do this before I check polarity because for reasons I can't go into right now, there's a phase interaction that happens with EQ filters. So I want that filter in first. Okay, we get a little bit more summation above 40 when I go out, so I'm going to do that. Now, when we listen to this one, you'll notice that just this low pass filter already is giving us some nice isolation. So here what I might do is I might still use an expander, but I'm going to use it in a bit of a different way, right? Now that little pop you're hearing is an artifact because this is too fast. I want to get just that low end transient. Having this open up a little bit later is going to help us get the air from that inside mic to come through a bit more too. This is more of a sub kick style approach. and then we'll go ahead and compress it a similar amount to the kick in. But this meter is going to show me gain reduction combined on the both, so I'm going to turn it off for a second. It's got a little bit more more solid punch when I have the compressor in, I believe. Cool. And again, so far we haven't used any samples. We don't need them. So I'll get this snare done quick. So for the snare, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using the pop and the snap from the top, and I'll be using some body and cutting out, reducing the transient on the bottom. Definitely in. Probably a little quiet. I'll show you without the EQ. So quite a nice ring. I would probably address this on stage with the drummer. Okay, probably need a little bit less volume on it. Too much. There we go. People forget about the low end and the snare bottom. It's quite important. Now I'm going to balance it with this volume over here. I could do that with the output gain of the compressor as well, but I'm using the output gain of the compressor to be more like a, to make up for the loss that I'm generating on the compressor. This is super sensitive, sorry guys. So I'll show you without the processing if I can. Yeah. Why won't it play? I did something. Sorry, I did something. Let's go find that section again. Oh, did I mess with... Why is Pro Tools being odd? Oh, thanks, guys. Thanks, Pro Tools. Oh. Oh, now I'm not going to know where we were. Ah. Let's see. That's fun. Any of these sections will probably work, really. Actually, this is cool because it's got some toms and we're going to need those. So let's turn off these guys. Oh, come on, Pro Tools. Oh, there's a big change in level there. Again, difficult to show you without being able to have them on a single track or something. Okay, so that's before processing it with some EQ and some compressors, or, yeah. Cool, and we didn't need any samples. Okay, let's get some toms happening real fast. Tom, here. So normally at sound check I would have this guy repeat a tom, so we're just going to do that. Oh, tom 1 we really want tom 1. You can tell already that we've got a really well-tuned tom with new skins. It's amazing what new skins will do. Okay, also, so this tom's over to the left, so probably a little bit of, yeah, that works. So that's fallen off, if you can see it on that. So 190, 80, it falls off to 80. Good to know. So we'll accentuate that a little. That's what I was hearing. Cool. So for the compressor, what I would do is let that nice low end thump come through. And then get on top of it. So a little bit, like 30 something on the attack. Nice slow release. So it sort of follows that. And so that we can set our levels properly, we need some context. So I'm going to flip back and play a little bit of context. So it's a bit on the loud side. Let's see what pulling out that. Actually, let's go ahead and leave that in and do it on this. It's a little bit better right there. Cool, and we've got some great floor tom hits here, so we'll do that. Sorry, I'm trying trying to rush a little bit. When I get in the studio, my headspace changes a little bit. I slow down. When I'm live, I do this much faster. Consoles are obviously faster than mousing around. Hear that? That's why it's so important to check on every input. It's thin and upper pitched and lower pitched and heavy when it's out of polarity. So let's get rid of that tubby. Actually, I'm gonna need a couple others. So there's something nasty in there. So this one starts around 80. And then drops off. So we'll take a little bit of the low end off and we'll do something similar on the compressor. We already know it was about 30 and about 160. Got to turn it on. But it's a lower frequency, so I might go a little bit longer on that. Let more of the waveform come through. And I will show you guys some gating on these as well. Just need to hear them totally in context. Not bad. Not bad at all, in my opinion. So let's look at the gates on these, because these are not trimmed out, which is absolutely awesome. All right. We got some symbols right next to these, so we're going to want to be... Hear that? So sidechain again, ready? So we want the sidechain, and we're going to go up about 200 hertz. And I got the meter to help me out here to show me what it's hearing. Snare is giving us... Here, let's see. The snare is giving us a lot of broadband. So we may actually be more benefited by doing this. Now, the only reason that I would be careful when doing this is because if he plays a lower, like a lower energy groove, where he's rolling on that tom a lot, we might lose a little bit. It's not common to have a ratio on your gate. This kind of we would definitely lose that. And we want that tail. And again, because it's live, we don't want to take too much out of it. Cool. For the other one, basically the same thing. Probably should come in a little tighter. Yeah, nice solid tone there, so we'll probably pick up that. Not a big fan of these gates, guys, so don't judge me too much. But I'll work with it. I'll work with it. Work with anything. Good enough. That should help control some of that bleed. Now, the drums for me are basically dialed in, so let's get into my go-to plugin. Hey, Marcy. Actually, it's great to see you on here. My go-to plugin normally, so these particular videos, I am using just the stock plugins for training purposes, but my go-to plugins would be, let's see. If I'm looking for an EQ, if I'm trying to do something surgical or whatever, I'm using the FabFilter. Love that FabFilter. Of course, I'm not licensed on this account. This is a clean account right now. Let's see if I'm doing dynamics. There's a couple different ones. I tend to use the API 2500 a lot. I tend to use, what else do I use? I tend to use the CLA compressors a lot. And I guess it depends on my use case, because I'll use the 2A will be for a lot of guitars. I usually wind up putting those on. 1176's vocals and things like that. And then I'll use, for my reverbs, I usually use Altiverb. It's my favorite. Or the TSAR reverb. This guy here, which is, I hope is registered. That I really like a lot. But yeah, we can get a little bit into that. For live, awesome. Fabs are nice for live plugins. I don't, let's see, do I have that open? Let's see. Here you go, Marcy. Here's, I'll pull open that session I pulled open. So this is the multi-rack, that I'll typically pull up. So it'll give me a good answer to your question. So let's see. It was the last one I did. So a lot of these are in safe mode or whatever, but here, so don't ignore the bass because I was experimenting with that one. But for the vocals, I like PSE if I got a lot of background noise or whatever. RVox, I absolutely love RVox. C4, obviously everybody uses a bit of C4. Again, the 76. If I need to tune, I will be using Waves Tune. And sometimes I'll throw on a Pultec, depends on, like, that particular vocal didn't need it at all. Sometimes they don't need any of the other stuff. Let's see, anything else fun in here? H reverb, because console reverbs suck. And then this looks like a live stream mastering bus. A little bit of 2500, a little bit of REQ. I love the REQ. A little bit of that love going on. Max bass because of tiny speakers. L2 because of reasons. And then obviously I will always have my trusty WLM meter. Those are my go-to live plugins if I'm using plugins, and I don't actually use them quite a lot. No, I don't want to say. I hope that helps. So because we're going to be doing some squashing, for the sake of keeping it conveniently close. Actually, that's not the right one. I forgot it was red. So for the sake of keeping it close, I'm going to go ahead and move that here. Now, what if you're trying to do this on a console? I'll try my best to emulate this on a console, but I'll show you in 2 seconds what I would do if I had plugins. So we're gonna go. What I actually need is some fast, hard music. What do we got down here? Those whoop whoop whoops are gonna be annoying. I just need a... I want a 2 and 4. What I'm looking for is a 2 and 4 groove, guys. Gonna be slow. That might work. It's a... that might work too. Why do we do a lot of that? I will find something. I will find something. Sorry, this is like a full album. Oh, is there nothing? Maybe here. I guess we did a redo because that's the same track. Good gosh. A lot of slow songs on this album. Alright, well, that's gonna have to do because I don't really want to go hunting. Alright, so what I'm gonna do is when I do my squash buses, this is how I approach them. So I start with only one thing in, so I'm gonna have to turn off those because my snare is the thing that drives my squash bus. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get pretty crazy with my compressor. I'm gonna take off the front end, and what I actually really want, is I'm a little too hard here, is I want about 6 with just the snare. Okay, and then I'm going to come back up 6. You can already hear what's happening. Looking at my level. So what I'm trying to do is here, I'll start down. I'm trying to tuck it under the snare. There we go. To me, that's fitting a little bit better. Okay. Now, when I do the kick, I am going to do the same thing. I'm going to turn these off and I'm going to do the kick. Right? It's because I was watching my meters and setting my gain right. I'm going to be probably in the right ballpark. Which I am. It's where I want to be. And I don't want this to fight the low end that I'm getting from my kick, even though I am... Pro Tools is latency compensated. So I'm going to double up here. I'm going to add a little bit of bump. And I'm probably going to pull a little bit of the mid-range out. Okay, now I'm going to add the snare back in to check it. Okay, so again, this is that phase problem. Okay, so what you're gonna notice is listen to the rattle on the snare when I do this. because we're latency compensated, I'm canceling out the upper end, trying to fix my low end. So in this instance, because I am going to, there we go. Okay, so no, we're no longer fighting there. Bump a little bit here in that thump, a little bit of space in that, and then for the toms, this is where things get fun. Again, we want to turn off these guys. And so the toms push a little hard. So live, I would deal with it. But because I have a DAW and I can control this, it's an aux. If you have a group, then deal with it because it's on off. But if you have the level control, then use that to your advantage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to pull these back down individually. So a little too much. I want my toms to be like 3 to 4 on this, not... Yeah, there we go. Because I don't want them smashed, even though this is adding some love. There we go. So now listen to the drum groove a little bit with it and without it, so you guys can see how I would do that. Oopsie. There we go. So this is off. On the next round, we'll turn on. So it's just got a bit more weight. But again, may or may not be a good thing. Depends on the rest of the context of our mix, right? But that's how I would do a squash. Now let me show you how I might do that with the compressor that I usually use for this, which is this guy here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that one off, and don't have my preset in here. I have a preset that I dial in for this. So what I would do is pull that guy over all the way down, because that's normally what I do. And then I'll go... And then we will take some medium, and we'll dial in here. Actually, I'll do this first, which is my makeup gain. Now I would do the same process I just did, but I know that I've already done it. So, okay, so we'll switch between them. So that's why I like that plugin a little bit better. I don't need the extra EQ. Cool. Okay, so that's that. So now what I would do is I'd start doing the rest of my mix with everything else. So just to get onto the rest of the group discussion, I'm going to try to fly through this as quick as I can. Let's do this whole groove. This may be a bunch of stuff in here. This song's got a ton of tracks, so I'm gonna already take some low end off. quite often I'll just do this. There we go. And you'll see why, because I have this other track here. Good lord, this is sensitive. This is a take of the pedal board, I believe. It's already got higher RMS, I can tell. I'm going to have to bring it down more. And then I tuck this one. Usually I tuck this guy down a lot. Again, that's just for harmonics to hear a little bit better through the mix. So that's going to be quiet. Hold on, I'm just going to check something real quick, guys, because this was 2 individual channels. So I may... where are you? Delay, time adjuster. No. There it is, trim. I think we're okay. Come on, there we go. No, I was right. This guitar was out of phase on one side. I don't know why, it always is. But I could hear it when I started playing it, so I'll leave that in just to correct for that. And again, I've got my gain where I want it, but I'm going to use a trim, like an attenuator, to get this level where I want it to 0. It's probably a little too hot still. Don't need all the low end on the guitars. And because I've got 2 rhythm sections here, I might just split them. You can hear what's happening with the stereo width there. Oh, wrong guitar, sorry. This is so sensitive. It's nice when you have great guitar players and great tones, yeah? Hey Blake, how you doing? Now this guitar player I happen to know was off to the side, so I would probably put him where he would be on the visual. But also he pops a little bit too much for me there, so I'm pull him down, sit him there. And then let's look at these tracks. Yeah, I knew there was going to be a ton in there. A little lower on the gain set that because there's a lot of RMS in this. Sorry, I got a fly or a mosquito in here. So cool. Is this guitar worth listening to? Nope. So now I've got my drums are hitting around 0, instruments are going good so far, master's still pushing hard. Make sure that the mix is still sounding good out there, guys. See, gotta find the worship leader for this track, sorry. Harmony. So, let's get some... It's cool. Nope. I thought it was a girl that led this song. Sorry, that's why I'm a little confused, guys. No. Interesting. All right, that's confusing me. I need a stronger lead vocal, and I don't believe I have a... The strongest one I've got is over here, Senor Andy. Get a little bit of life going on. Shot still, stage shot left, right. So you can hear all the low end in that. Let me take that out real quick. It's a little too muddy still for me. And then, actually, look, reverse that. We'll do this as a shelf. That works. Okay, again, I'm going to use a shelf on the top end because I want to keep it. Okay, and then we'll copy that over to the other side. And we'll match. Okay, these are actually backwards. I know that because of the visual. Woohoo! Yeah, I would not be using that. There's a little bit of noise in there because of the sub and rattle. There we go. Vocals. Pour out my heart to. Woohoo! Sorry, guys. I come with arms wide open. Pour out my heart tonight. Lay down this life forever, Lord, to lift you high. I come with arms wide open. Get that down. This is quick and dirty right now, guys, just to get it done. But I guess the biggest takeaway you can see is I'm just mixing, right? These groups are still doing what they need to do. I'm just mixing. I come with arms wide open. Pour out my heart tonight. Lay down this life forever, Lord, to lift you high. Really wish I had a console. I come with arms wide open. Pour out my heart tonight. Lay down this life forever, Lord. A little warm. I come with arms wide open. Pour out my heart tonight. Probably start panning some of these. Down this life forever, Lord, to lift you high. I come with arms wide open. Pour out my heart tonight. Lay down this life forever, Lord, to lift you high. I come with arms wide open. Pour out my heart tonight. Low vocal. Lay down this life forever, Lord, to lift you high. I come with arms wide open. Alright. Pour out my
So,
heart tonight.
okay, I got enough going now that I can look at the groups, right?
Lay down this life forever, Lord, to lift you high.
If I... So let's say I want... Actually, you know what? I think I forgot. I did. We can send this squash bus to the drum bus. We can bus that over. We don't have to, but we can. I forgot we were doing it this way. No left, right. And then... There we go.
say for whatever reason we want it a little bit less. Yeah. A little bit more. Alright, and then let's look at this. Just a little bit, a little tickle, yeah? Want a little bit of that snap and punch to come through. We're really just worried about the transients. See that? Just that little bit of touch. And let's say we were hearing too much of this in the vocals, but we want a little bit of love in the low end. Yeah. And then we could probably see, we get some punch and love through there. Oops, sorry guys, I only want a little. Cool. And then here, let's listen to our vocals as a whole. This is always scary to do. Right, make a little bit of space, put a little bit of air. And then probably compress them a little bit to keep them together more. Now we're hearing a little bit too much of this. We want to get off them a little quicker. Probably would do 3 to 1, honestly, on this, no more. So I'm trying to find the place where I'm not really hearing it too much. And if I don't like it, I don't like it. And I could always back down here to 2. There you go, and then we'll just give it a half a dB because that's all we're really doing. And we'll take those off real quick. Just a little bit of polish. Yeah. Anyway, so it's really difficult to get through in 2.5 hours to get through all this without a console, but I'm trying my best. So I'm really depending on you guys for the questions and to drive it. But so group mixing, we went through a little bit of that squash where we did the kick and got about 6 dB of compression where we're lopping off or just that first transient, making it have a nice big tail, and then we muted the snare, and then we added the kick in, and we made sure that we were getting about 6 dB there, and then we muted that, and we added the toms in, and we made sure we were getting around 3-4 dB there. Then we turned them all on, and we made sure that we tucked in the result of the squash underneath what we were having so that we weren't hearing the majority of just squash. The other thing that we checked is whether we were going to low pass it, and we checked the polarity, but when we did that, we low passed it and we flipped the polarity because the low end seemed to be off. We were phase canceling everything above and losing the detail in the snare. So we opted to leave the low end in and not polarity reverse it in this particular instance and move on with our lives. And just to recap that real quick, I will mute the vocals and we will listen to the drums, and I'll show you really quickly with the without the squash. Listen to the drums, and then with it, and without it again, and with it, out, in. So it just got a little fuller. We just made them a little fuller doing it that way. If I was running this particular channel strip is pretty thin in my opinion and anemic sounding. So if I was running this on a better console that had better algorithms that sort of or better preamp, or well, if it's analog, like a good analog console or whatever, there's a lot more you can get out of it with. That's why we opted to go with this compressor rather than the channel strip, because we showed both, and this one was working and doing what we wanted it to do, but we needed to add some EQ to it to have some life. But normally when I'm using a real console, not just this generic channel strip in Pro Tools, it's much easier, much faster to get it full sounding without needing the squash, so I don't really do it. Then I tried to buzz through a mix real quick. I threw some guitars and the tracks in to get to the vocals faster. Completely ignored all the keys and the other stuff that were recorded on this night, and didn't even get to any of the verbs. So we were just focusing on mixing it down. And what I had mentioned and was demonstrating that I was just mixing. So when I set the buses up, I turned off the channels to the left right, so no left right, and I'm only sending them to their individual groups at Unity, following the pan, so that if I change the pan on something, it changes in the group. And the volume is this group volume. In a group on a console, the groups there's no volume usually. If it's a bus, it does have a volume. But if it's just a group, if it's an aux bus, it has a volume. If it's just a group bus, then there's no volume. It's on off. So I can mix with this fader. It will go out like a normal aux to this group and come back on the group master or the bus master, and I can treat it that way. So these bus masters are then going to the left right, so they are summing together down to the left right, and this is my overall left right. And by doing this, I have the ability to manipulate the balance, treat them a little bit differently. We talked about how only a little bit of gain up or down, so no more than 2 dB up or down is effective enough on a group like this, and no more than 3.5 dB or 3.5 to 1 on the ratio is effective. Sometimes I'm on 2 or 3. More often than not, I'm on 2 or 3. And then we just chose our attacks and releases the way we've always chosen our attacks and releases, making sure that we were keeping our transients or getting off quickly and not hearing any crazy warble. We heard the warble in the vocal release, and it was pretty tricky to dial that one in. But yeah, and again, every time I say no more than, I'm just saying as a general guideline, not a rule. There are rules that are meant to be broken in sound, and you do you. If you think something sounds awesome, go for it. But just be aware of the rules and why they exist, and I try to explain those. So like when you see crazy stuff like this on a group bus, I start asking questions, because I'm going, why do you have to do that on a group bus? These particular, let me get some water, my throat's dry, but these particular tracks were recorded well live. And by recorded well, I mean the producer and I. The producer is a guy named Luke Munns. Hopefully you've heard of him. He's a great guy. Former Hillsong United drummer, now credible artist and producer. Sat down and we went through mic selections and what we wanted to get to replace whatever the church had on site. And then we did drum placements. I think I ran the drum placements for Luke, and he just kind of, looked over them to approve afterwards. He was more focused on the songs themselves. And so we did new skins on the drums. We tuned the drums. The guitarists had good gear. They knew their gear. They knew their tones. We worked on tones with them. The singers were using decent microphones. These are all Beta 58s except for the one KSM on standard. Believe it or not, this night, these were SLXs this night. Nothing even fancy. The funny thing about the SLXs is all of these vocalists are used to singing on Sennheisers, and as soon as we switched them over to the Shores, they literally were like, oh my God, these must be the most expensive mics out there. They were absolutely blown away by the clarity, and I'm like, no, they're not. They're actually the cheapest Shure ones we could find. They were the only Shure ones we could find at the time, and they were actually blown away with what they were getting in their ears. But again, these are some of the church's best vocals. They were rehearsed. They were on the mics, aware of mic techniques. So this particular session that I have here it's sort of a best case scenario. Like the drummers are all hitting pretty well. I think there was 2 bands that we swapped in the middle of the night, but they were the best of the best at this church, and good representation of all of this church's campuses. So the sources are very, very good. So there's not a lot of work that needs to happen on a lot of these sources. So, I mean, if I'm just trying to take out a ring and the rest of it's like pretty minor, this is fairly normal. We're getting tone out of this, but the rest of it's pretty minor. It's a pretty awesome night. So, I mean, this is the guitar EQ, just a little bit out of the mid range. This is all space. This is just some bum and sparkle. Like, this is great stuff, in my opinion. Again, just a little bit of that tubbiness, and I mean, no more than 6 dB on a filter. That's a 3 dB filter. Those are 3 dB filters. Tiny amounts of EQ needed to really make drastic changes on this mix, which is really great. Now is usually the time I break into questions. If there's questions, I know we said we were going to get to third-party plugins. So what I'm going to do for the third-party plugins, I know I talked with Marcy a little bit before, but what I'm going to do for third-party plugins is I am going to bring open a window so I can show you guys some of my suggestions. So if you're doing live or post or studio stuff and you're wanting to invest, an easy way to invest is to, I mean, all of these plugins, if you get to know them, they're good tools. Waves is the obvious, right? Waves is the obvious choice. Right now you can see they've been running this for a few, I'm not sponsored by Waves at all. They didn't ask me to say anything. This is somebody asked me what third-party plugins I would invest in. These are some that I would invest in or have invested in. But Waves is good because if you watch Waves, the site throughout the year, they run sales all the time. Right now they are running a great sale. So if we click on that, we can see a friend of mine just bought the Horizon bundle, right? Normally this Horizon bundle is actually he bought a bigger one, but this is $500. It's down to $3 right now. Where's it? A diamond bundle, $415 down to $250. So you can see that some of these are really, really good. Let's go ahead and look at the bundles, right? So if you're going to plan to invest, and then this is an investment. Anytime we say investment, we mean we're going to sacrifice a little, or we're going to save, and we're going to put substantial investment monetarily into our craft. But all of these bundles are worth it. Horizon, Diamond, Gold. The Horizon's got the most. It's a good place to start. A lot of good tools in there. I wouldn't necessarily jump on the Abbey Road right away. If you're needing to invest, this is probably a step 2. The Signature Series, stay away from the Signature Series stuff. If you're wanting to learn how to better your craft and have better tools, don't use the tools that other guys have put in their own magic into. You want to develop your own magic. I mean, sure, if it's cheap enough, maybe grab it and listen to what it does, but there's a lot of complex algorithms that are put into some of these signature things, and they're great tools to have and be creative with, but my opinion is learn your craft, learn the rudiments, understand what an EQ does. Don't just pull up a fader on a Chris Lord-Alge thing that says brighten or thump. Learn how to do that yourself, so you can be the next Chris Lord-Alge. EQs, compressors, those knobs and faders on consoles, they're not going anywhere. They'll be here for years to come. Chris Lord-Alge won't. His legacy will live on, but his plugins may not either. So plugin manufacturer, when it, God forbid, Waves goes out of business, this will lose Chris Lord-Alge Signature Series or Greg Wells or Manny American or any of these guys. These plugins suites won't be around, but the basic EQ, the basic compressor on all these consoles, they're going to be around for a long, long, long time. Learn those. Again, we got a Silver Series. That one's pretty good. Honestly, grab the One Knob series. It's super helpful when you just need to put a high pass on something or make something a little wetter, or super simple for post mixing. I think that's a good investment. The Studio Classics collection. Now there's one that I think is probably worth an initial investment if you're going to do it. Let's see if I can find it, because this is the one that's got the SSLs and the APIs, and these are classic. Super classic console style emulations, and they sound good. They all work. They all sound good. But again, it's based on the traditional stuff. It's worth investing in. Now, where is the one? There's one that let's see, trending price high to low. Somebody told me that they picked up a pretty killer deal. Diamond Horizon. Maybe that one's off sale now. Yeah, it must be off sale. There's a killer $2,000 bundle that was really cheap. Let's see. I thought it was Horizon, but I guess it isn't. But anyway, grab them. Those are the ones I would look at. Any of them, Platinum, Horizon, Diamond, those are all worth it, especially at these prices. Let me show you. We talked about Slate. Now, Slate Digital, they have a little bit of a different, I guess you can still buy a perpetual license, but they've switched over to, the software as a service model where you pay every month. So, I mean, that adds up over the years, right? But you pay one fee every month and look at all of these model plugins that you get to throw in the rack. I mean, there's just so many modules. The style of plugin is more like a 500 series where you would just load these into one plugin as you want. You also get the Iosis Air EQ. This is a killer EQ. And by killer, I mean it's functional. This de-esser, I've used it. I'm not a huge fan of this de-esser, but it's there. Yeah, they've got some good stuff in here. And if you want a quick and dirty, where is it? I just blew right past it. If you want a quick and dirty mastering processor, this mastering processor is killer. It came out years ago, and it just absolutely dominated the market. You're able to get things pretty loud, pretty fast with this, but you're also able to make things sound really terrible with it. So, again, be careful. We'll probably show that off pretty soon. The only other one that I would say get right away would be what was that? FabFilter. So here's the one. So this FabFilter, right? FabFilter makes a bunch of really great plugins. So they have this Pro Q3 equalizer. This thing is unbelievable. Get on. I mean, you can basically do super sharp filters, super broad filters. It will let you go to the sky, to the grave, up and down. It has this great analyzer in it that allows you to pick out a specific ring. If you hear a ring, you're not quite sure where it is, it will let you highlight it, and then you can just automatically generate a filter right on top of it. This EQ is just phenomenal. It sounds great. It works great. It's worth getting. I haven't used their reverb, but I don't think I could live without the Pro Q3 on my system. It's just too good. The limiter's great. The multiband, I think I also own this one, the Pro MB. So these two plugins right here are fantastic. In my opinion, this multiband is better than C6 from Waves, only because Waves have got 6 bands. This one, you can have one band, you can have as many bands as you can fit. I don't actually know whether or not there's a limit to it, but you can trigger bands from other areas of the frequency spectrum instead of just the band itself. You can dial in the ratios, the attacks, the releases. I mean, it's just, you can do upward expansion with this plugin. So yeah, these are the two. If you have to make a choice, start with Pro Q3 and the multiband, and then maybe the Pro C2. If these are honestly, I'd probably buy these first. They're absolutely incredible. But those are the plugins that I would want to have in my toolbox right away. If you need quick and dirty tuning, the Waves Tune plugin is great. Obviously, there's Auto Tune, and obviously there is Melodyne. Melodyne, I believe, has an auto plugin now, but I use Melodyne for manual tuning. I use Waves Tune for quick tuning. To me, Waves Tune sounds fine. A lot of people will whinge and complain about the sound of it or the sound of auto tune or whatever. To be honest with you, when you're tuning a vocal, you're killing the tone no matter what you're doing. That's why it's best when the vocals have a good environment, headspace, and they know their melodies. But if you're tuning a vocal, the tone's going to get trashed no matter what you do. So pick your poison and go with it. Reverbs, sky's the limit with reverbs. There's Valhalla reverb. I'll show you that. See, Valhalla. Did I spell that right? Yep. There's this guy. This company makes a lot of great reverbs. Vintage verb, room, plate. Let's look at what's the one a lot of people use. Probably this vintage verb. So this is what they look like if you've ever seen pictures of it. I showed you this one on stream already. T-SAR reverb. Yep, from Soft Tubes. And the one that I love, Altiverb. Let's see, Dave's got a question here. What's the advantage in a plug-in high pass over a stock console high pass? They do the same thing. You may find a high pass filter in a plugin that has better phase properties. They all are going to have some phase properties, but the questions, the third-party plugin question that I'm answering has more to do with somebody who was asking, they're setting up a post suite. By the way, that question comes from Dave Jordan over on YouTube. He's asking what advantage is a plugin high pass over a stock console high pass. There's, in my opinion, I wouldn't be using a plugin high pass. Now, in saying that, let me see if I can show you something. Let's say I run into a situation where my console plugin here. Yeah, this is gonna be easy to show. I'm just gonna pick the 6EQ one. We'll go here because we didn't do anything. All right, so this looks like so this is 12 dB in octave. This is actually pretty. This particular one is pretty steep. Let me show you this with EQ3 here. Okay, so when I hit this in this high pass, right, it's 6 dB in octave. A lot of consoles only have a 6 dB in octave. They may give you an option for a 12 dB. Now 12 dB is fine. Also, the higher you go with this slope, the more the phase is going to flip above the filter, right? So you're gonna want to be aware of this. Some consoles will let you do this, but most are 6. And there may be a time where I'm doing this, and if I get it, if I'm trying to get rid of something low, and I go like this until I get rid of it, now I might be affecting some stuff higher up that I don't want to be. Now, in that case, if my console doesn't have the option to do this, or if the 12 dB in octave isn't helping, then I might take these off because I don't want the additional phase, and I may put in this, right? I might put in a high pass from a plugin that allows me to really hammer on that curve, right? Now I know that I'm going to be causing phase problems, so I'm going to be aware of that, and that may or may not work to my advantage. But this high pass, way steeper than what I might be able to get on a console. That's the only advantage you might get from a plug-in high pass. Hopefully that's helpful, Dave. Go back over here. So Altiverb is the other reverb that's really nice to have. And there are plenty of reverbs out there. This one's expensive. This is a big boy. What this company does is they go out and they model all sorts of spaces, and they give you the ability to use convolution reverb and some algorithmic hybrid style additions to brighten them up. This is a very powerful processor. It's famous. It's been around for a long time. The library is massive, and people can add to the library as well. I believe you can also add to the library. But it is, I mean, it's used in music. It's used in post-production. I mean, this is the reverb that's got different size rooms or environments. If you want to sound like you're talking on a plane, because it has a certain acoustic characteristic, this is the reverb for you. It has planes, it has trains, it has cars. Not even kidding. But as you can see, it's a pricey, it's a big boy. These are in euros, but I think it's about 1.2 right now in euros. Is the exchange? I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, this is an expensive boy. Talk about an investment. If you're doing a lot of work and you're really reliant on reverbs and spaces, this is the investment you want to make. Again, I'm not sponsored by any of these people. I'm not sponsored by anybody. This is just me spending my time with you, trying to give you guys some free information. Right? Okay, so if there's not any other questions, I still have a couple minutes for questions. So if there's any questions, so pop them in a comment or the chat, and I'd love to answer them for you. Let's see. I don't know if my. Let's see. Let's have a look at this case. Let's go here while I wait for any questions to come through. Reverb. Altiverb 7. Please load. Please don't be not registered. It's a bit of a dog to load. But yeah, let's flip over to the mix real quick. So maybe I can show this off a little bit. We will. Oh, I must be in a really weird spot. Let's go. Where's my? There we go. And you can see how that you can hear all that compressing when it's just soloed out, but in the mix it's not that big a deal. Yeah, that should. Oh, that's right. I need to. I was like, why am I not hearing it? Let's open up the browser. Here's it singing in a Beatle. Fire truck. Hear the difference? Honda Element. I mean, it's just crazy. So I mean, there's. Oh, this is. Here we go. Seven Oceans Reel. I mean, you can just. Cooling tower. How cool is that? Yeah. The Echo mic. Give it a second. I can't actually stop and start without this. I mean, it's just crazy. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So Daniel over on YouTube says, I'm still learning how to use the IRs and Logic. Yeah, there's I think that's that Logic Verb. Logic Verb's not bad. Logic's got some great stuff. I am going to really mess your name up. I'm so sorry. Poor? I'm gonna, yeah, I can't, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that. That is my own ineptitude, but I appreciate that. He says, thanks for sharing your experience. Love the drum mixing. I appreciate that. I'm here, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm here all the time. I don't ask for money. I just ask for participation. Just come hang out, ask questions. But it's about 7:29, so I'm going to wrap up for dinner. So if there are no more questions, I'm going to be wrapping up. But I appreciate everybody coming and hanging out. Look out for our Monday stream. Hopefully we'll be bringing some people in, having conversations. Again, if you have multi-tracks that you want to work on with me on live stream, please send them. Please let me know. DM me. I have a way to send them in. Just make sure if they can be under 5 gig zipped, that would be awesome. That's the best I can really do at the minute. But yeah, DM me on any platform if you have one and you would like to see them worked on and jump in and talk. I'm trying to find ways for people to come and join while I mix. What else? Live Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 5:30 p.m. Pacific time on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. It's James Arthur Hurley on all of those platforms, so you should be able to find that pretty easily. And follow me on the Facebook, subscribe on the YouTube or Twitch, whichever is your fancy, and then to get notifications. And if you're interested in Twitter and you use Twitter, it's James A. Hurley. It's the only oddball one. Instagram is James Arthur Hurley. But yeah, I try to do Instagram's great because that's where I post my polls for what people are wanting to talk about. So follow me on the Instagram to be a part of that conversation. But yeah, I look forward to hanging out with everybody again on Monday night, and hopefully you can share this with your friends who maybe you think may be interested in this kind of content. But yeah, let's hopefully this doesn't. We got our Spotify back. Cool chill music. But yeah, so hopefully you can join me on Monday, and your friends can join me, and I appreciate you coming and spending the time with me tonight. Have a great weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I look forward to hanging on Monday. Catch you soon.